In this video, we're going to take a look at a very famous historical example where sampling bias played a really big role. So back in 1936, Landon was the Republican presidential nominee, and he was going up against FDR at the time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And the Literary Digest was a really big popular magazine at the time, and it correctly predicted some previous presidential elections, and it polled about 10 million Americans, and it got responses from about 2.4 million. So there were 2.4 million Americans within our sample. Now, that on the surface seems very good because we like to have very large samples. When we have large samples, the findings that we have tend to be more convincing. This poll showed that Landon would likely be the overwhelming winner and FDR would only get 43% of the vote. So it had Landon winning over FDR. However, when it came time for the actual election result, FDR wins with 62% of the votes. What ends up happening, the magazine is discredited because of the poll and is soon discontinued. So there were drastic real-world consequences because of the outcome of this poll. Why was this wrong? We said we had a very large sample, and we tend to like it when we have a large sample. It seems like the findings that we have should be relatively convincing. We should be pretty confident in those. Well, we need to think about who was a part of this poll. The magazine had surveyed its own readers, registered automobile owners, and registered phone users. I want to go back for a moment now and think about the timing of this. When did this happen? This was in 1936. And if you're not a big historical buff, this is right in the middle of the Great Depression. So I want to think about people who have enough money to subscribe to the magazine, people who own cars, which are a relatively new thing, and own phones, which are a relatively new thing. These people tend to have more money. These are well above the national average of the day. This is the Great Depression, as we said. So this means that the people that we surveyed for this poll tended to make more money. They are not particularly reflective of the average American at the time. They've got more money. That means that they might vote differently. So the sample in this case is not representative of the American population because everybody in this sample tends to have more money than what the average American is currently making at the time. This matters a great deal because if our sample doesn't look like our population, then our sample is not going to answer questions the same way as our population. So this matters a great deal because we had some amount of sampling bias. Our sample does not look like our population.